Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 62 today for the Japanese Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at Russia, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Utter chaos in that episode, and it means going to this one, again, the championship is still ever closer with only, what is it now, 4 rounds to go, I think, in this season, so it's very much crunch time now. We've got a lot of time in between Grand Prix here on the activity timeline, actually, though, to put in some activity. Of course, no messages yet as of late on that regulation change coming, but obviously we did get the confirmation the rumours were starting, so that would indicate, I would assume actually, going into this race weekend, we might just get that cutscene about that. But speaking about R&D, obviously we did purchase one final ultimate upgrade on the drag reduction side of things, just to make sure that the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull don't, truly match us on paper for R&D to give us the best chance to round out this championship. Let's head into the weekend and see what we're met with.
Alright, listen up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful, so let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.
So there we have it, the R&D regulation change has come in, and this time we could actually see a cutscene, because I think when we had it in Season 1 to Season 2, I actually missed the cutscene. I didn't get it recorded, so you didn't get to see that classic cutscene with Carl coming in. But there we are, confirmation, and strangely to my surprise, durability is not going to be changed. The only thing that's going to be reset is the aerodynamics of the car. Like I said in the previous episode, it seemed like engine and chassis was going to get untouched, because the email said it was rumoured to be aero and another department maybe, but and I thought that other department maybe durability makes kind of sense that one to be reset, but even that's not reset, so we're gonna have a pretty durable car next season, and it's all gonna be about the aero and the drag reduction. Like I said, it's a massive challenge for every team, because if they don't adapt enough downforce, then you're gonna have a car that's so lightweight and so powerful that you can't even really turn it properly in the corners, because you've got so much power and it's so light, so therefore it's going even quicker into the corners. And if you don't have enough downforce to turn the car, it's gonna be like a bit of a boat already, a very hard one to handle, almost like the Road to Glory cars we were making in the Williams, it's a rocket ship in a straight line, but just woeful every turn. So it's going to be quite important to make sure we adapt as many as we can, parts of these as we can. We're going to basically leave it to the end of the season. I want to save up the R&D points and just basically have a whole bank, and then just try and tactically see what we can afford, because if we start adapting parts now, I won't get a good picture of how much we can technically afford. I don't know at this stage if we could even afford to adapt everything. If we can't, I need to tactically, wisely pick the best ones, i.e. maybe the ultimate upgrades, or, some of the major ones that will allow us to kind of easily regroup and re-upgrade next season, of course, when everything kind of, gets reset and we're back down to 0 points and we go again for that season. But, of course, we've still got plenty of this season to go. I was correct, 4 races after this one, obviously, is done and dusted, so 5 in total right now from this one. And again, you can see other teams continuing to improve. We have that upward trajectory from the ultimate upgrade. Mercedes join us on that, so let's see if they improve at all this weekend. But for Ferrari, after not bringing too many upgrades to Russia, they bring some more here to Japan, along with Red Bull as well, to get them back ahead of McLaren on paper. So let's see if obviously the Honda's leaving the sport in real life Formula 1, but let's see in the game here if the Honda powered Red Bull can turn up and do something. And obviously it was a bit of a hit and miss Grand Prix for myself and Leclerc, so both of us are going to be wanting to bounce back after that utter chaos that happened at Sochi. So let's go now into the race weekend. Very doom and gloom, I must say, very gloomy. No rain is forecast for Suzuka this weekend, but it is very, very depressing, I must say, with the overcast conditions. But we're going to try and make our way through Q1, of course, as per usual, just trying to get through into the next session in P10. Verstappen down in P5, so I don't know, typically he's right up there, and I'm the one a little bit slower in Q1, so I don't know, that's going to hopefully won't be an indication of what our true pace is like. But the 2 Red Bulls coming out of the blocks pretty damn quickly there. Giovinazzi again out qualifying Leclerc in that first session. We saw last episode Gio was the real star at Ferrari. He was the one who got that podium for them, whereas Leclerc was obviously floundering with that car issue. So let's see if, again, maybe Gio's going to carry some momentum now after that podium, and maybe be the number 1 Ferrari driver. You never know, and that could be quite awkward, because of course Leclerc is the one in the championship fight. He's the one that needs to be up there. But now we're into Q2, going through Sector 1. Of course, this will be the last time, at least in a season or so, that we'll be able to drive a car that's this good in the corners, obviously, with everything being reset. I don't know. By the time we get to Suzuka in Season 4, maybe we could have got back to this point, I guess, on the aero if we upgraded enough, but trying to soak it in, and the car has massive amounts of grip in that Sector 1, and we come across the line, P6 it is there, and we took the risk of just staying out there on that lap time, and we make it through. We actually go faster than Verstappen in that session, so again, right here, at the moment, this picture is quite worrying for us in terms of we seem to be lacking some pace, and now it's the Ferrari guys that look quick with a 1-2 there, even the McLaren and Renault, Kvyat up in P4, Ocon P3, and Ricciardo, surprisingly, after having a 1-2 in Q1, Ricciardo actually, as only just seen there, is knocked out in Q2, so that's a huge blow for Red Bull, so they're going to have one kind of less rear gunner, and also, interestingly enough, you can see Sainz and Leclerc are the only two guys that qualified in Q2 on the medium tyre. Doesn't mean a lot, in my opinion, because it is still a one-stop here at Suzuka with the tyre wear levels we've now got with the upgrades on the chassis. It's still going to be a one-stop from soft to the hard tyres. Maybe they could go aggressive and go, well, I don't know. It would seem kind of very odd and very, very surprising they went medium to softs, I guess, but maybe that's what they're trying to go for. I'm not too sure, but it's not going to be a massive advantage in my opinion. So they've done it, but I don't think they're going to get much from it, apart from maybe at the very start, around lap number 5 to 6, when our tyres start to go off on the soft compounded tyre. They'll go a little bit faster, but apart from that, not too much of an advantage there. So we'll see how it goes, I guess, on race day. But we go into Q3 then with a heap of understeer. Unfortunately, you can see there through turns 1 and then even into the S section, just generally not getting as tight as I want and getting the kind of speed through the apex, and here through the right-hander, going a little bit too wide and getting a little left there, compromising our line into the chicane, trying to get the nose turned in. But yeah, I don't know, for some reason the conditions didn't change too much. It's still as gloomy as it was in Q1 and Q2, but the track just seemed a little bit less grippy, or at least to me in my car it did on that first run. And on our second run, you can see in Sector 1 we've not improved, going through the Degners now towards that hairpin corner. Fast right-hander, then big brake zone, easy to lock up on the front left. We do so, get the nose turned a little bit better there, but we're still just, maintaining that deficit of, nearly 1.5 tenths there from Sector 1. So this second lap, not going to be an improvement for us as we come through the last few corners. Still 2 tenths lost there. It's not going to be an improvement. So at best, we'll finish up in P4 there. Verstappen ahead of us in P2, Giovinazzi P3. Leclerc right now is behind me at the moment, crucially, but we're going to come through to the end of this session. That was my last lap, and by the time I come into the garage, we're down to P6, and Leclerc will improve his time. He gets up into P3. My teammate, though, on the front row alongside Sainz, so showing the car did have some pace, and for me, that was just a very poor lap. That second lap, I don't know what went on. I just couldn't find the time. So, yeah, sometimes this just happens. Obviously, you just can't find the time, and we only just beat the Renault guys there. Kvyat quite close to me, actually, in terms of lap time. Then Lando Norris beats me in the McLaren. So we've got a bit of work to do there. Got to try and get past the McLaren at least, and then you've just got that wall of 4 cars that, in theory, should give us a good fight. So it's going to be maybe difficult to get through. Obviously, with the one stop with everyone, that's going to be tricky to do anything different on the strategy. So I guess just hoping that we can try and find that pace that Verstappen's shown there to get on the front row. But let's go to the grid and find out.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issa Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? We're southwest of the city of Nagoya today at the unique figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit. 3.6 miles and 18 corners make up a lap here, with average speeds approaching 136 miles per hour. DRS will be available, of course, into the potential passing opportunity at turn 1, although the best place for overtaking will be through 130R and into the final chicane. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
But on the bright side, at least those fresh components can help them maintain the power they need to come through the pack. I expect to see them take a more aggressive approach today to make up for the compromised start.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Giovinazzi, Norris, the owner driver, and Kvyat, Matsushita, Ocon, Bottas, and Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton, Verstappen, they've taken a grid penalty. Alexander Albon, and Gasly, Stroll, Russell, Nick de Vries, and Nicholas Latifi. Aitken, Perez, Magnussen, and Romain Grosjean sits at the back of the grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So for the very first time this season, I believe, one of us in the aarava Archer Racing team has had to take a grid penalty for worn engine components. Verstappen has taken a 10-place penalty there, so he's down to P12. We move up one position and move to the other side of the grid on the left, which is the better side, obviously, on the racing line, actually, so that could give us some sort of advantage there, but so that's unfortunate for Verstappen in a championship fight. Down in P12, he's going to be behind the likes of the McLarens, the Renaults, even one of the Mercedes cars, but especially the Renaults and McLarens, especially how they looked last episode at Sochi. He might actually find it difficult to get through that as quickly as he'd want to. I think by the end of the race, he could still come back for a decent position, but that's definitely going to hinder and dent his championship chances in terms of this race at least, and obviously there's not many 2 races to go, so you can't really afford to have too many races like this at this point in the season, so that's going to be a big blow for him, but it makes our life a little bit easier, but it still means we have to fight Leclerc and Sainz, and of course with that, Leclerc now moves on to the second row, so it's Sainz and Leclerc all on the front row. My championship rivals right there for the taking, so we're going to try and get past Norris and Giovinazzi first, and then see what we can do, but as I said, strategy is very, very simple. One stop for us, I believe, one stop for pretty much everyone, so it's going to be just about what we can do on pure pace and merit, so let's just go out there and give it the full beans and see what we can do, and hopefully have a cleaner race than last time as we go to 5 red lights here at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Lights are out and we're underway, and it's a stonking start compared to Giovinazzi and Norris. We're up into P3, could even get into P2. Down the inside at turn 1, Leclerc has got the lead. Sainz off pole position, down to P2, could be P3 on the exit because we get him, and we're up into P2. Honestly, one of the best starts I think we've got in a long while, and definitely this season for sure. That was electric there. Norris had so much wheel spin on the right hand side. Giovinazzi just never got away. I guess he just didn't deploy ERS early enough, or I don't know, he just bogged down so much, jumped him completely, got 2 moves done before he even got to the brake zone, then used plenty of overtake mode and just sent it to the inside of Sainz, got the elbows out on our old teammate, and we're up into P2, and now we're hustling and harrying Leclerc potentially as he has a little bit of a wobble on the rear end, and could we try and go for a move for the lead? This is exactly the kind of start we needed. Here we are then in the slipstream, lap number 2, no DRS, pure natural speed here on the outside. It's going to be very tricky as we jockey for position. We've got a little bit wide. There's the corners, very naturally understeery, of course, and Leclerc keeps his foot in, and he goes round on the outside. We're going to tussle in sector 1 now. We're going to be side by side through this entire section here, just trying to give each other enough room. But you can clearly see both cars very much on edge and so close to one another. Up the hill, planting the power, using ERS when we can once the grip kind of settles down the rear. But here we have to give up the position there because that was either going to end in a crash or me being squeezed out into the gravel. So fair play to Leclerc. He kept it on the right-hand side tactically there. That was the better place to be at that right-hander, of course. So we have to give that position. We have to try and go again maybe at the same place, or potentially we can keep it close to him through the spoon section. Maybe just go for a move towards 130R. You never know. No DRS, of course, will be activated on the following lap here. But at the moment, then the order is Leclerc, myself, Sainz, Giovinazzi. I still think it's Lando Norris then in P5, despite a lot of wheel spin he got. And then of course you've got the likes of Ricciardo and Verstappen, who started down in P11 and 12. I think it was 10 once Ricciardo got elevated one position, 10 and 12 respectively. They've got to make their way through, and I think it's going to be quite difficult for them in the first stint at least. But let's see now. This is going to be quite interesting. Can we keep on the pressure on Leclerc? And also, what's the tyre we're going to say? Because of course he and Sainz, they're the only 2 on medium tyres. So will that play a factor into this? Let's see. Purple our sector, so we're going quick, deploying ERS across the line. Rich mix. We have a little look to the inside, on the outside, maybe to turn 1. No. Wash of understeer and dirty air just ruins that then. So that's the only frustrating thing really. Just like in real life Formula 1 sometimes, there is just always going to be that wash of air that's coming off the front of the car, and you just can't make a move stick on the outside there. It was a bit over ambitious to be honest to think that I could have made a move on the left. I don't know why I really attempted it. Meanwhile though, behind us, look at this, side by side through 130R for Giovinazzi and Sainz this is. So the second Ferrari man being very aggressive here, wanting to get stuck in and get that podium position here. Obviously early days, but Giovinazzi did a fantastic job, you know, away from the fact that he played some dirty tactics in my opinion with our little crash at Russia. He had a fantastic fantastic race he did, and now he's showing that pace again to the inside, and he's got Sainz into turn 1. So it's a Ferrari 1-3, and Gio is coming into his own. I mean, for sure, I think personally for me, I don't know about you guys, but he's shown so far now in this second half of the season why Ferrari dropped De Vries and why they were correct to elevate him. So I think they made a great signing, to be honest. I think Leclerc and Gio, very good pairing, and also at the same time, as some of you guys have pointed out, very nicely, obviously, Gio just fits very nicely into a Ferrari car. Obviously Italian, his helmet goes very well with the car, aesthetically as well, so it just kind of fits, doesn't it? But this is now on the following lap, and after having been overtaken by the Ferrari car, oh my days, Sainz has just been embarrassed in a straight line through 130R. That is the works Renault car of Daimler Fiat. He's overtaken the Red Bull with ease, and he's now up into P4. The Renault team, they've really improved in the last 3 episodes, especially so. And Sainz, he goes for maybe the re-overtake, but he's just not looking too quick right now. I mean, he's fighting the Renault. I mean, even if he's going to look to overtake him as Fiat makes a mistake, he's on the inside. They're going to be side by side on the exit. They bang tyres a little bit. The rear end wobbles for the Spaniard, but he goes the long way round. But look at Fiat go. That Renault has actually got some decent grip in the corners, you know, and he keeps his foot in, and they're still neck and neck now up the hill, just like myself and Leclerc were. Who's going to blink first towards the Degners? You've also got Lando Norris and the McLaren also right there, so this could become a mega scrap, because also just behind them is Mashasita, and then the other McLaren over Ocon, and they're still, oh my word, Fiat has kept it side by side through the Degners on the outside of that section. That is near impossible almost, and for an AI to do that is unbelievable. He's not held it through, sadly, in the hairpin, but and Sainz has got that place back. But as I was saying before, they started attacking each other so much and having a brilliant ding-dong battle. You know, the Sainz, even though, yeah, he's gone and overtaken Fiat, and well done to get back into P4, it's a pretty bad showing to be, you know, looking behind him and fighting the Renaults and McLarens, because obviously in a championship fight with myself and Leclerc, you want to be looking forwards. But right now, as Norris goes, oh, with a beautiful move, sailing round on the right of the Russian and gets that place. Sainz is going to feel the pressure from not only that McLaren now, but those 2 Renaults look very punchy. But what that entire last lap in this train might help is actually my teammate Verstappen, because this train goes all the way back to Verstappen, who's in P11 now, having overtaken Hamilton. So that's a train from P4 down to P11. So that's a big one, and that might be actually quite good news for our teammate if he can get the overtakes done. It's a big if, but let's see. Lap number 6, though, then the next lap, and back on board with us, and we're now under pressure from Giovinazzi. The tyre wear is kicking in a bit for me. Obviously, Giovinazzi is on the same tyre as me, but I can tell he's feeling a little bit less tyre wear than I am. We're deploying all the ERS in the world here on the main pit straight to try and defend. He tucks up right underneath our rear wing to have a little look on the outside. Maybe we're going to just hold the racing line a little bit wide, though, and you can see he got the nose a little alongside. We maintained track position, though, ahead of him there, but he did actually quite well to just get the nose in. We're getting plenty of oversteer. It's continued from Q3, unfortunately. That same issue we had in qualifying, where the car just won't turn in at turn 1. Everywhere else, it seems pretty okay, but just turn 1, it's understeering so much for some reason. Maybe just going to change my brake point in line a little bit, but at the moment, feeling the pressure now from the Italian, who's right up there. He's so good through the Degners, and Leclerc now is a good 4.6 away. We have a bit of oversteer there for good measure. On the exit, we go defensive because I can see him in the mirrors, but that change of direction just unsettles the car. It's a double lock-up for us. As I move to the inside, I should have waited as I started braking in a straight line to move to the left. Instead, I moved mistakenly left to cover off the inside line as I was turning through that right-hander. I just unsettled the rear end and trying to stop it, you know, kind of yo-yoing about, having to brake a little bit harder, and that involved locking up into the hairpin. So Gio just gets us very easily and just pulls our pants down there. So it's a 1-2 for Ferrari then. Leclerc leads the way by a few seconds to Gio, myself. Then it's Sainz in P4, looking a bit more comfortable now. So maybe he's just picked up some pace, using a bit more ERS maybe, ahead of the likes of Norris. Then you've got Fiat, Mashasita, then Ocon, Ricciardo, and Verstappen. So still that same train from P4 to 11, but it's dispersed a little bit there. And Verstappen, you know, he's behind a Red Bull car, so he's going to find it tough to get past him maybe. And the Red Bull car, Ricciardo, is not getting past, it would seem, anytime soon, those McLarens and Renaults. That's why I'm saying it was a very badly timed time to take a grid penalty for Verstappen. I kind of get why now, because to be honest, I might have to take one in the next race or two, because even though we've made so many upgrades on durability and reliability, there are still 1 or 2 components that are looking a little bit iffy, and by the time we get to Abu Dhabi, if I don't have them changed, that's going to be an issue. And obviously I don't want to take a penalty at Abu Dhabi. That's the last thing I want to do, so I might have to tactically think about taking one maybe at USA or Mexico. We'll kind of get to that discussion, obviously, once we get to those races. In the meantime, though, having made this one and only pit stop then onto a set of hard tyres just ahead of Romain Grosjean, and this is now the interesting thing, of course. I've gone to hards. Everyone on softs will go to hard tyres. But I still don't know what Leclerc and Sainz are playing at. I don't know what their strategy is going to be like, what they're thinking with that medium compound. Obviously, yes, they have an advantage now, effectively, of, they were quicker than me on the soft compound, as my tyres were very much going off on the soft. But there's going to be no real strategy advantage, so it's going to be intriguing to see, what kind of advantage they can get from being on mediums, really, if any, after this lap, essentially, once we made this pit stop. And we now make a lovely little move on Latifi there. Just pop it to the inside, catch him napping a bit up into P20. Can we get to Prix then in the Williams car? Obviously, such a change of fortunes now. Again, he seizes the man who replaced him in the Ferrari he was driving earlier on the season. He's right ahead of him, Giovinazzi. Very weird dynamic there, but good to see he's still obviously on the F1 grid, having, I think, deserved a chance, at least on the F1 grid. But here now, lap 9, we might ruin the party, to be honest, here in this race and try and get him into 130R, as Verstappen now is going to come in on this lap, obviously, as everyone now is looking to make that pit stop. But interestingly enough, though, I've only just clocked, look at the top left, Giovinazzi, he came in on the same lap as I did, but he's on a set of soft tyres. So Giovinazzi is doing a 2-stop today because he went soft to soft. So okay, do Ferrari really think they have that much pace? Are they really that confident that they think Gio can maybe come back and still finish on the podium with a 2-stop? That is insane. So, you know what? Our fortunes may be turned around. We might still have a good shot, at least getting P2 in this race, because I believe Leclerc has checked out, unfortunately, unless he wants to slow down a bit. But we might have a good chance of P2 still, because Gio, on that 2-stop, I don't think that's going to be a very good strategy. That surely he doesn't have that much pace. Maybe if it was Leclerc, might have believed it. But with Gio, he's been good, obviously, but he's not that quick. So I think we have a very good chance, actually, now with P2 with that very weird strategy from Ferrari. But right now, as it stands, lap number 10 closing up rapidly to Magnussen having to lift off a little bit, not to hit him in the rear end because we closed up so quickly in 130. I'll give him a bit of room in this chicane to work with, but we are up into P12 then. And we've got a whole load of other pit stops now being made. Gio sets fast up the Grand Prix, so to be fair, he is the fastest man on track. That's what he needs to do if he wants to make that 2-stop work, but I just don't see it happening. But we're up into P7, slowly but surely that will be at least P3 minimum, and then we see what the others will do. But from lap 11, as we go later on into this Grand Prix, this is a few laps later now on this clip, you've got Leclerc still in the lead on the mediums, of course, Sainz on mediums, so they're going a lot longer. Third place, there's still a Racing Point car going long on their first compound car. Giovinazzi still in P4, doing the best he can on the soft tyres. There's now a bit of clean air between myself and him, so we're trying our best to keep up with him. Behind is a very lively Ricciardo there. That was a perfect time to cut onto the camera shot there as he drifted through the exit of that right-hander. Then you've got a load of traffic and cars. All of these guys on hard tyres going to the end of the Grand Prix. So the thing is, Gio is going to come out in the middle of these guys, or just maybe he's quick enough just ahead of them. So I just don't see why he's making that 2-stop. Speaking of Ferrari making a pit stop, though, there is Leclerc. He's in for his pit stop. He's onto the set of hard tyres. So yeah, he's just done mediums to hard. So the only advantage he gained was obviously having a bit more pace maybe in the first stint for a few laps. But strategic wise, it's not kind of, there's nothing too drastically different and dramatic about it. Sainz goes on for one more lap then. So we'll see what he's thinking in terms of tyre strategy. But there's Gio then, a good shot of those soft compound tyres on Giovinazzi. And he's the only one, I think, doing a 2-stop in the entire top 10. So very Ferrari to do that. I really don't agree with it. I don't see why, but I'm not going to complain. Meanwhile, though, let's focus on our teammate now for a little bit in this race. He looks to maybe overtake the Renault, who is also looking to overtake the McLaren, and it's going to be 3 wide on the main straight. Ocon v Verstappen v Fiat, I think that is, or Mashusita. I think it's Mashusita actually, because Fiat's up the road, and it's going to be Verstappen who's overtaking Ocon, and he goes the long way around, and he gets the Renault as well. Can he get it finished into the S section? Yes, he can. Verstappen, what a move. I mean, it was brilliant to see them 3 wide anyway, but then Verstappen not only went around the outside of Ocon, but then also kept it going on the outside of the exit of turn 1, that longer exit, obviously, and got the Renault as well. Kudos to him. So we're not seeing too much of Verstappen this race, but that was fantastic to see. Some great moves there, getting up the order. Still only around, that's going to be, what, P8 or P7, though, in this race, so still not as far up as he'd want, but good to see him making some progress there. there. And meanwhile, as we cycle through to the sharp end of the grid, you got myself still in P4, Gio P3, Leclerc slotted into P2, and he's just up the road from Gio, so that's how much of a task Giovinazzi has and the difference between the two Ferrari guys. And Sainz continues on for another lap, that is, on that lap, and he goes to the next one, and only now does he come in, so he's gone 2 laps longer than Leclerc did. So I wonder if he's going to go for that very aggressive one stop onto soft tyres. Yes, he will. Red Bull, soft compound. I rate that. I really like that from Red Bull. Fair play. Going very aggressive. Giovinazzi's also in for his pit stop, so he's onto a set of mediums there, so his 2 stop is complete, and so we're going to be up into P2, of course. Leclerc leads the way now at the Japanese Grand Prix, myself P2. Sainz will come out in P3, just ahead of his teammate Ricciardo, who's had a fantastic race, remember, he got knocked out in Q2. He was down in P11. He obviously got elevated to P10 because Verstappen had the grid penalty, but Ricciardo's done a fantastic job to get up into P4 here, right behind his teammate who was on, obviously, pole position, remember. But Sainz now, this is the interesting thing. He's in P3. Giovinazzi's out this race now in terms of the podium. He's down here behind a Renault, just ahead only of Verstappen, actually. So Verstappen might have a chance to maybe try and attack Giovinazzi. But for us, it's going to be intriguing now. Does Sainz have enough pace on the soft compound to bother us? So we've got P2 right now, but it might not be plain sailing. Sainz is going to be rapid. He's the man on pole. He was the fastest man over 1 lap on Saturday on soft compound tyres. He might cause some issues. And to be fair to Gio, he's not coming out of this race. He's still making some moves, and he goes and makes a move on the Renault, I think that is, and is confidently taking the apex there, and is up 1 more position, and now can go chasing after that McLaren. So he could still get up into what would be P5, I think that is P5, yeah, because I think Ricciardo's P4, so it'll still be a decent race position, of course, but it still could have been way more if he just did the 1 stop. Meanwhile, we got back to this fight then between the Japanese man in the Renault, the home favourite on the outside. Verstappen, though, trying to ruin the party a little bit here and trying to get the move done. These two were scrapping already before with Ocon, but they're still going at it now as they've gotten away from the Frenchman, and they do battle for what is going to be, I think, P7 in this Grand Prix. Obviously, Norris is still there ahead of both those guys, so Verstappen gets the job, though, so he's recovering as best he can, really, doing the best job he can. You can see he's actually only just behind Giovinazzi there in that camera shot, but Giovinazzi looking to make a move on McLaren on the right-hand side, DRS open, and he makes it look very, very easy. So, again, he's showing all the hallmarks of being a very good signing for Ferrari. Just like, they just needed to put him on the 1 stop. Like, he's showing there on the 2 stop, making moves happen, and, he deserves to be in that seat, really, but just very, very on that strategy. Meanwhile, speaking of strategy differences, lap 23, and Sainz there has set the fast lap of the Grand Prix now, and he's now finally settling into those soft tyres, and I can tell you he's going to pressurise us now to no end. Lap 25, you can see he's right up my shaft, pretty much pushing me through into the spoon section, and we're just saving ERS tactically for this entire back straight and the pit straight to make sure we can keep ahead of him. That's all I've got going for me. Basically going lean mixture, because also you can see on the bottom right, I'm also iffy on fuel, so I'm going lean in sector 1 to save the fuel, also not deploying too much ERS, and then using all of it on the last straight here through 130R, onto the exit of this corner, onto the main pit straight, just to maintain that track position. Giovinazzi's stolen the fast lap away from Sainz, but Sainz is still pretty damn rapid, and now obviously you can see my tyres are going off a little bit as we're now setting just constant red sectors and just trying to just survive this race now. We've got 2 laps to go, just got to keep on going and just do that same job. Just save the ERS, deploy it all on the back straight, just make sure we don't go into negative fuel and make sure we're still going to have enough to get to the end of this Grand Prix. And as we now move on to the last lap of the race, Leclerc nearly 11.5 seconds up the road. He's going to finish off and win this Grand Prix, but this is the last chance now Sainz has. We're literally the edge of fuel on standard mixture. We're literally going red and green, deploying all the ERS we can. You can see my energy store has actually been worn out to the point on the bottom right where I've actually lost some energy store on the right hand side, so we're definitely going to have to change components soon, but we do come through and hold out for P2, I must say, from where we were, P6 qualified, P5 on the grid. Great start on that one. I think we've done a mega job to be in P2. I really didn't think we were going to get P2 at the start of this one, so I think that's a fantastic drive from us to hold out the pole sitter on the faster compound. I think we've done a good job there.
That's it then for another fantastic Grand Prix here in Japan. A brilliant victory that has thoroughly earned the applause from the sellout crowd here today. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So Leclerc wins the Japanese Grand Prix. We come home in a very, very decent P2. I think that will really help us out. Obviously, we score more points than Sainz. We outscore Verstappen by a decent amount there. Obviously, Leclerc will gain some, but obviously Leclerc was actually one of the guys that obviously fell away a little bit more than others in the championship in the last 2 races. So we'll, I think, still maintain the lead of the championship. Yes, we will, ahead of Sainz by now 7 points. So a bit of a healthier gap than 4, at least. So it's better than nothing. Leclerc now up into P3, though, 8 points off myself. And then Verstappen now is the one lagging behind by more than 10 there. So a bit of karma, maybe, ever since Italy, ever since, you know, we had that contact that he kind of turned into me at Italy. He's not had the smoothest of Grand Prix, to be honest, so maybe it's a bit of karma, you know. It does come back to bite you sometimes, I believe, in the world. But championship-wise, constructors, obviously, we're still very, very golden. I think maybe we have a good chance, actually, of sealing it out earlier if we just can keep this kind of over 80-point gap there to Red Bull in the last 4 races. But Ferrari trying their best to chase after Red Bull. McLaren maintaining that over Mercedes. You know, actually, Renault, if Renault have a good enough 4 races here, they could, in theory, overtake Mercedes in the championship now, which would be a massive upset and a massive coup for Renault. So that'd be awesome for them, obviously. Like I said, it's been awesome to see them improve, because it would be, although it'd be quite tricky, obviously, to manage, it would be a very cool dynamic to see our engine supplier go up against us if they improve that much into next season, obviously, like we've had a few times in real life, obviously, when you kind of clash conflict of interest with the engine supplier versus your, you know, customer team that you're giving your engine to. But anyway, guys, that was a fantastic Japanese Grand Prix. I feel like I said, I think we maximized our position there. P2, you know, minus Leclerc, we were the best out there, I think, you know, in terms of, you know, if we take him away, that's what we could have done, honestly, because Leclerc, we had a half a chance at the start, but then honestly, once he settled into a rhythm, he just flew away. So P2 was honestly the best we could get, and obviously we still lead the championship with 4 races to go. So guys, if you did enjoy that one, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly 4-on content. I've been aarava. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.